Welcome back to part 4 of this tutorial. Alright, we also need to add some lights. So in this instance we'll just add some down lights. So we'll go to our cylinders. We'll make this about 50 radius. Bring that up to the ceiling, just below the ceiling. We'll just take off the height segments. Make the sides about 32, just to give it a bit more roundness. So this is how I normally make all my downlights. We'll inset that, and we'll extrude this up. And then I'll hold shift, bring this down as a separate object. Give that a bit of a shell. So that'll be our actual light fitting. So I'll add a light material onto that. Make that about 20. And then for the actual fitting, I will just give it the same texture as the handles. You can also go into more detail with that and put a turbo smooth, but you won't really see it. Alright, so we'll just add about 1, 2, 3. Just start them from about here, and we'll go 1, 2, 3. Center these, and then what we need to do is add actual lights onto those Corona lights. So we'll go to our lighting, Corona light. We'll make that a disc as a shape, and we'll just kind of highlight the area, just exaggerate it slightly, and we'll bring that up. Alright, we'll make these we'll just unselect all of those. You'll see why. We don't want to make it visible directly, because you don't want to see the actual light. We also don't want to see it in our reflections, and the rest I normally just keep unticked. So we'll make this about 60 for now, and we can come back and adjust those after, once we've got our little preview render screen. Alright, let's just instance all of these. Just select only our lights here, so we can select those. Instance. Alright. Cool, so now we can start looking what the actual render looks like. So now it is a bit tricky with the sides here, so what I'll start by doing is making this a square setup. So usually in our render setup, I normally render my renders to HDTV, but it just depends on what you're looking for. So if we go to save frame, press Shift F, we can see what we'll be rendering. So in this instance, it's a bit of a more square shape. So I will go to custom, and I'll make this about 2000 by 2000. And then we just need to go back to our camera and adjust some settings there. I have actually forgotten a main object, our fridge, but we can add that as we go along. Cool. Alright, so now if we go into, this is my favorite part about Corona, is our Corona interactive view. So if we click here, we go here, extended viewports, Corona Interactive. So now you need to select whichever frame you want to see rendered. Cool. Not looking too bad. Alright, so we're going to start off by going to our render setup. What I like to do is uncheck this guy, fast preview denoise during render. As you can see, the quality goes down a bit. I like to uncheck it so we can see exactly what it's going to look like. Alright, so what we're going to start by doing is adding a sun. We can make the sun come through here. So let's just stop that. We'll go to our top view. There's two ways you can kind of do this. You can add a sun and add a plane with a background over here for more simpler scenes. Then you can also start adding an HDRI as a second option, which is also great. For this simple scene, I'll just kind of use a sun. Alright, so we'll just bring the intensity down. And then we can start adjusting our camera. So you want to bring the exposure down to about -2. And then you can start playing around with that. Let's just brighten up, make these lights a bit bigger. And we'll make those about 50. And what we can start doing is compressing the highlights a little bit. Alright, so we can also do this while it's rendering. I just like to do it now so we can see how it's going to look. So now what I was explaining earlier is about these surfaces. As you can see, they're very plain. So what I would do is add a dirt map. So let's open our material editor. We'll click on that surface. So here we have our plain kitchen surface. Cool, let's just stop this for now. So let's add in our dirt map. So I just search on Google seamless dirt map, bump map. What I've got is this. And we're going to add it into our reflect glossiness. So what you can see there, it starts giving this a bit more grungy texture. So now if we click on that, show shaded, we'll see now we're getting this grungy texture. So we need to go and add a UVW map for these as well. Cool. We can make this a bit smaller. It's not going to be as hectic. It's just to give a small indication that there is a bit more life on the surface. Okay. Don't know why it's copying like that. Anyway, we'll just have to adjust this manually. Just convert that. Alright, and then the same with our shelving. Okay, cool. So now that we have that, let's see how this is looking. We'll just go back to our material editor and we'll rather view that grey. So you can kind of see you're getting that nice grungy texture. If you don't want it so prominent, you can scroll down here to your reflect glossiness. It's supposed to be in your reflect glossiness, sorry. And then you can bring that down to about 50. So once we render, you'll see it's very subtle. We can maybe make these a little less glossy as well. Alright, cool. And then we can do the same with our walls as well. Let's do that quickly. Add some to our walls. This can get a bit tedious as well because you do need to adjust the UVW maps for each surface. So but it is worth it in the end. It just gives some life and realism to your render. Alright, cool. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is add a bit of a background. In this instance, I'm just going to add a plane. So we'll start by just making a line, extrude it up, so you can see our background there. And then I'm just going to search on Google for a nice image. Cool, so I found an image of an office park. So the way I'll add that in is you'll go to your material editor, add a Corona light material, add your office park into that texture map, and we'll make that about 8. Let's see how that's looking. We need to actually apply to the plane. We'll have to UVW map that as well, but we can't see it, so we'll just select that, view that rather, UVW map. Just make this a shell. I think that's why we can't for some reason see it. There we go. So if we go to our camera view, we can kind of adjust it. Cool. Okay, that looks a bit silly, so we'll just keep adjusting to kind of what looks a bit more realistic. For some reason okay, probably should have chosen a better image. But anyway, we're not going to see it as much because we're going to increase the light amount. Alright, so I would suggest choosing a better image. This one is obviously a bit pixelated and whatnot. Alright, cool. So now that we have our kitchen, pretty much everything is set up. I'm going to add a few little details, such as I need to add the skirting, which will just be the tile again, cups, a fridge and a microwave. So I'll just pause and import those. Alright guys, so I have added all my small accessories, cups, a little Nespresso machine, a microwave, a fridge. I've just added a bit of skirting there. So I'm going to go ahead and click render. We can use Shift Q for this. Alright, so what I really like about Corona is all the little adjustments you can make while it's rendering. So for instance, here we can come again and adjust our exposure as well as our highlights. And then what I like to do is adjust the white balance, make it a bit warmer, so we can see here the difference. It's obviously going to be a bit too warm, so we can make it about 7,000. And then what I like to do is add a bit of a darker shade around it, just to frame the image slightly. And then what I normally do is add some bloom and glare. I'll usually make the bloom about 5, the glare 1 less, just depending on how it comes out, how we've done our materials. And you can see there we start getting a nice little glow around our light fittings. Cool, so I'm going to go ahead and let this render, but that's pretty much it. Once you've done that, you can bring it into Photoshop if need be and do minor tweaks. I don't normally do a lot of tweaks in Photoshop, but it's just preference. Thanks so much for watching.